It's Cougar Sports Saturday.
That's caught! Touchdown! Stayed inside the boundary and gets in for 6.
Cougar Sports Saturday, a presentation of KSL Sports.
Richie right to the rim, driving score! He would not be denied!
BYU Sports Talk by Cougar fans for Cougar fans. Sponsored by Any Hour Services, electrical, plumbing, heating, and air. Your hosts are Mitch Harper and Kyle Ireland. On Utah's legacy home of the Cougars, KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
Brandon, how's it going today? Appreciate you hopping on board today.
No, thank you for having me. I'm grateful to have the opportunities. I guess we're Saturday game day today, so grateful to be on there.
It's an exciting time, and I'm curious, what was your just thoughts of, going into a season opener? When I think of season openers, I think of one of the best ones, I think in BYU history, was the one that you quarterbacked as a week 1 starter against Tulane in 2001. What's maybe just the excitement, the feelings going into a season opening game as QB1?
Well, that there's been so much talk and so much conversation in the media about who's going to be the starting quarterback. Do we got a quarterback that's a stud? What's the team going to look like with him as the quarterback? And so I know for myself, I was so anxious to get out on the field and prove myself as a day one, game one starter. I had come off of only a couple games where quarterbacks had been injured. We were finishing the season. So that day one, game one starting experience in BYU, at BYU, coming out of that stadium is about as memorable of a game as I've had.
Should we expect Bear to put up 70 like you did?
Yes, against Portland State.
It'll be interesting to see how Bear Bachmeier performs. Again, talk with Brandon Doman here on KSL News Radio. What were your thoughts on Bear getting the QB1 spot and being a true freshman? I mean, the history of this position, and you're tied to it as well as anyone, but just no one has ever done this. What's happening today with Bear Bachmeier getting the start as a true freshman in week 1, just your thoughts on him ultimately winning the job.
Well, I think it speaks volumes to him as a person, his ability to get into the locker room, into the weight room, out onto the practice field, and establish himself as a true leader. He hasn't had a whole lot of time, and generally that's really a challenging thing to do, to win over the team and develop enough confidence in the defensive players and the coaching staff to trust and have confidence in you as a day one guy. Especially since it's only been since May, June, since he got there. It also, I think, speaks volumes to maybe the significant need that BYU had. McKay Hillstead and my son Jace are good friends. We've known McKay for a long time, and I have a lot of confidence in McKay, just knowing, the history of watching him play. But it's hard to demonstrate that in practice. At times. And so I think BYU probably has been a bit concerned and wondering if they had enough talent there. And so Bear coming in, competing the way that he did and earning the job, really does speak volumes to his preparation and readiness coming in.
What do you think in McKay Hillstead's skill set? You just brought that up, with that maybe couldn't be showcased in a practice setting, because I mean, watching him at Sky Ridge, he was so good. And coming out of the transfer portal out of Utah State, he had a lot of Power 4 interests. I just really thought maybe going into this competition, myself personally, I thought McKay just makes too much sense for BYU. So maybe I'm a little bit surprised that a true freshman emerged in Bear Bachmeier. But what do you think about McKay's skills? Maybe couldn't be showcased in a fall camp setting in practice.
Well, I always felt that way as a quarterback at BYU. I was recruited as an athlete. I was recruited to play quarterback, but I didn't really fit the mold. And so it was difficult in a practice setting based on the offensive scheme, the way that they wanted us to demonstrate it through all the different one-on-ones and 7-on-7 stuff and in the team. It just didn't – there wasn't a lot of live action, move the ball action, get into a drive. That has changed today. Coaches nowadays are developing practice schedules to simulate game in a lot different way than they did 25 years ago. There are scenarios being built on a regular basis. They are putting the quarterbacks in huddles and game-like situations. Coaches are putting headsets on during practice. They're calling plays down onto the field. They're signaling. All the different things that need to be done to simulate game experience is happening at a much higher pace and frankly in a lot better way. So I think that McKay, hopefully has had enough opportunity to compete. Where you don't know, and where I think McKay has demonstrated over the years, is when the lights turn on, the fans come walking into the stadium, and a quarterback has to walk out on the field and be a gamer. That's what you just don't know today. Bear has demonstrated in high school. He's demonstrated in practice. But now when it's live, they must have seen enough in Bear in the recruiting process and enough in these early practices to believe that he has an upper hand on McKay to go in and play right now. And for McKay, he's just going to have to be patient and wait his turn, which may never come. It may never come, but he's going to have to remain ready to go.
Talk with Brandon Doman here on KSL News Radio. BYU football going to kick off the 2025 season against Portland State, and Bear Bachmeier will be QB1 for the Cougars. What are your impressions of Bear from what you've seen maybe on film in high school, some of the practice highlights that BYU's pushed out? So what do you think of his skill set and his size? What do you think he could look like in this Aaron Roderick offense?
Well, I think he was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school. This is a big, solid, athletic young man. I mean, he's 230, 35 pounds, and 6'2". I didn't have any of those tangibles. I mean, he has all of the tangibles that you would want him to have. He can run. He's physical. And what I've been really impressed with just as a fan, and I think as a former BYU quarterback, is to listen to him communicate, to listen to the manner in which he presents himself in front of the media, to listen to his teammates talk about him, to watch his coaches talk about him. There is a ton of confidence and enthusiasm surrounding him, which means that he's done all the right things in preparation for day one. And as far as athleticism and skill, I think he's as good as any freshman quarterback we've had at BYU physically being prepared to go in and play. So I think we're in good hands. I feel very confident in Bear, and looks like we got some backup quarterbacks that are very talented. And it's impossible to be successful as a football program without 2 or 3 guys. Just look at the University of Utah last season. We have to have a few guys in the cupboard at all times that can play. And it looks like BYU's got some guys.
You coached a true freshman quarterback, Jay Keeps, back in the day in 2010. What do you remember of just going through a season with a true freshman? I know he stepped in early after Riley went down with an injury in that Florida State game, but working closely with the true freshman, what's that kind of what was your memories of that experience week after week trying to build up a true freshman?
You have to be very smart with the game plan. You have to shrink, kind of reduce and simplify what you're doing. You have to make sure that during the week that whatever concepts you're building for this quarterback are concepts that he understands, plays, situational stuff that he can execute really well, and that he's living and breathing inside the playbook. And so when you look at the different areas where you're building the plan, it has to be built around him. And the more experience he gets, the more knowledge he gains, the more complex the playbook can get. But early on, you just need to make sure that he understands it and can execute it at a high level. And if the coordinators take concepts into the game that he doesn't feel comfortable in or feel confident, even though the coach feels comfortable in it, even though the receivers or the linemen feel comfortable in that concept, if the quarterback isn't, sometimes we make the mistake as coaches to say, well, yeah, but this is a great concept. We've been really good at it in the past, so we're going to keep it. But it's a huge mistake because this quarterback just isn't ready to execute inside those concepts. So you have to really spend time there.
Talk with Brandon Doman here. Last thing for you, Brandon. Appreciate all the time. When you see Kalani Sitake leading this program, you noted great coaches in the program. Do you see any characteristics in Kalani? You were a teammate of his that maybe reminds you of Lavelle how his style was as a coach.
Well, Lavelle was so competitive. I mean, you didn't get to see it all the time, but he was intense. He wanted to win. He was demanding with an expectation of the culture of winning. I mean, the guy had 28 winning seasons in a row. He was unusual that way. And then what I think Lavelle did so well is that he surrounded himself with coaches that were so good. He didn't micromanage them. He let those coaches excel in their profession and what they brought to the table. And I've seen Kalani here in the last couple of years surround himself with some unbelievable football coaches. And just to name one, Jay Hill, for example, and you could list a handful of other new coaches that have had a significant impact on the program. And I would say that's probably the best thing I've seen Kalani do over the last little while is the way that he's built out his staff, because he's only as good as his staff. And it's fun for me to see him recognize and build upon that and enable his success as a head football coach with the byproduct of unbelievable assistant coaches to enable him to be successful. And then I think Kalani's settling in and just being more and more patient, more and more calm and poised, even though he is a flipping lion when it comes to competition and the desire to win. I mean, he's a fierce competitor.